Good morning and welcome back to day 358 of our 365 days of Bible study. Today we are continuing with St. John's special insights into Jesus's gospel, and today we are continuing to look at that seventh sign, the resurrection of Jesus and his appearances to people after his resurrection from the dead. Today we are looking at that Easter Sunday morning when Jesus appeared to Mary Magdalene. John chapter 20, verses 1 to 18. But on the first day of the working week, Sunday, Mary Magdalene came to the tomb early while it was still dark. And she saw that the stone had been taken away from the tomb. So she ran and came to Simon Peter and to the other disciple whom Jesus loved, and she told them, "They've taken the Lord away out of the tomb, and we don't know where they've buried him." So then Peter and the other disciple went out and came to the tomb, and the two of them were running together. The other disciple ran on faster than Peter and came to the tomb first. And he stooped down and saw the linen cloths lying there. However, he didn't go in. Then, following him, Simon Peter came, and he went straight into the tomb and saw the linen cloths lying, and the napkin which had been on his head, not lying with the linen cloths, but folded up in a place by itself. So then the other disciple who had arrived at the tomb first also went in. He saw and believed, though as yet they were not aware of what had been written, that of necessity he had to arise from among the dead. So the disciples went away back to where they were staying, but Mary was still standing outside of the tomb, weeping. And then as she wept, she stooped down into the tomb and saw two angels in white sitting, one at the head and one at the feet, where the body of Jesus had been laid out. And they spoke to her, "Miss, why are you weeping?" She said to them, "Because they took my Lord away, and I don't know where they buried him." And when she finished saying this, she turned round and saw Jesus, and she didn't know it was Jesus. He said to her, "Lady, why are you weeping? Who is it you're looking for?" Thinking he was the gardener, she said to him, "Sir, if you have carried him off, tell me where you have put him, and I'll take him away." Jesus said to her, "Mary." She turned towards him and said to him, "Rabboni," which means teacher. Jesus said to her, "Do not hold me, because I have not yet ascended to my Father. But go to my brothers and tell them that I'm going up to my Father and your Father, to my God and your God." Mary Magdalene came and brought word to the disciples that she had seen the Lord and that he had spoken these things to her. Well, a lot is often made about the differences between John's account of the resurrection and those of the other Gospels. But I want to concentrate on the other thing. I want to think about this scene and the things that it has in common with the resurrection story told by Mark and copied by Matthew and Luke. They all say that Mary Magdalene was one of the women who discovered the empty tomb. But none of the others goes into such intimate detail about Mary's experience as John's account does. I think that there were many short individual accounts of the resurrection circulating amongst the early Christians, and each of the gospel writers has chosen his own favoured accounts. Everyone agrees that Jesus has risen from the dead, and these stories were selected from the best ones that were told to confirm that fact. John doesn't mention the other women who were with Mary, but they were referred to by Mary herself, for when she reported the empty tomb to Peter and the others, she says, "We don't know where they buried him," and not, "I don't know." John's version of the story is very plausible in the way it describes the disciples' confusion and their budding belief that Jesus was back from the dead. Along with the disciples running back and forth, we have, by contrast, Mary Magdalene just standing there crying because her beloved Jesus' body is missing and she can't do for it what she intended. Amongst the other Gospels, only Matthew mentions that the women saw Jesus near the tomb, but he doesn't specifically mention Mary Magdalene or her conversation with Jesus. All the Gospels, though, mention angels, or at the very least a young man dressed in white. In Matthew and Luke, we also have instances where Jesus is seen and not recognized, and here too Mary mistakes the risen Christ for someone else. We might explain these things by saying that they were hardly expecting to see him, and it took them by surprise. But it was enough for Jesus to say her name, for Mary Magdalene to recognize him and want to give him a hug. He gently disengages her, however, and gives her the most important job of her life. She is the first apostle, the first human to be sent by Jesus to bring the good news to the world. In this case, first to the church. The church is, of course, the continuing living body of Christ, and therefore Christ's Father is our Father, and his God is our God. The sign of the death and resurrection of Christ is now explicit, and his continuing presence on earth is assured. So tomorrow we don't. So tomorrow we continue with one more appearance of Jesus, this time to Thomas, and I'll see you tomorrow.